Hello, welcome to VAD Inspires. And listen, have you ever thought about anxiety in a more concrete way, in a detailed way? Because I have. I have suffered so much from anxious and over worrying and overthinking that I'm on my search to find answers. And in my answers is the book called Rewire Your Brain for Anxiety. I actually talked about this book in the Strictly Personal Part 12, and this is the part 14. So you might want to go back on that to begin your journey before you can understand a little bit of what I'm going to discuss in this section. I will link the video in the description also. But anxiety, when we talk about anxiety, we have to differentiate between amygdala anxiety and cortex anxiety, right? Amygdala anxiety is the one that creates the emotion. Your body is tense, the physical fight or flight response. That's your amygdala. And sometimes it even intervenes before your cortex can think through about what you are really anxious about, right? And the cortex is the overthinking, the worrying, the false imagery. But that cortex false imagery then triggers the anxiety towards depression. And anxiety that leads to depression, they are often connected. Overthinking leads to overworrying, leads to you feeling down and hopeless. It's like a thread pattern of a mental illness cocktail. But today I want to continue further in terms of the self-belief, right? The self-belief we're supposed to have, because that self-belief is actually not only rooted in psychology, but also rooted in science, in biology. And the term closest to self-belief is the idea of neuroplasticity. Your brain can create new connections. Your brain can learn or unlearn an unhealthy pattern to learn a healthy pattern. We can measure this by the amount of neural connections that are firing together. I don't know who said this, but I read it from the book. Neurons that fire together work together. So that neuroplasticity is your brain capability to change. It even said that a stroke patient can learn to use a different part of his brain to control his hands. I want to think about it. It's like wow. People who don't have arms can use their legs to do the function of their arms. People who are blind can text. That's the unlimited amount of malleableness we can in terms of changing and rewiring our brain for anxiety. The overall warning now, I think the belief that you can change from not only a biological standpoint, not only from a psychological standpoint, but from a biological scientific standpoint, right? You can rewire your brain to not be afraid anymore about your worries, to not be afraid about the things you think about, to not overthink. You can remodel your brain to think differently. So we've been given the equipment. All we have to do is use it and use it in a productive way. So whenever I think about that neuroplasticity, it's just self-belief is the closest thing that comes to it. And also is to understand that anxiety is also our best friend, because it keeps us away from fear. It keeps us away from danger. It makes us stay alert, makes us stay focused. But it can also be our worst enemy. It can create havoc. It can create paralysis from inaction. And that's the part that we are trying to improve rather. So to improve that, we have to first understand that we can improve it. The first step to change is the growth mindset. Because when I was afraid of competition, I wasn't afraid because I wasn't good at it. I was afraid because I didn't think I could get better at it. That's the difference. Not being good at something is not as bad as thinking that you can never get better at it. And maybe you have been anxious and felt anxiety so much that you don't think you can change. And that's the first step, and that's the limiting belief that might be keeping you in your anxious state. Because the fear of failure, the fear of inaction, worrying about not being enough for yourself, for your goals, for your activities, that's the first step of actually changing, is to believe you can change. And as we talked about the neuroplasticity, that's the belief that you can actually make the progress you're seeking to make. And lastly, I want to engage you in a little exercise. If you can write this down, that will be very helpful. Or maybe rewatch this video later and write this down. because this is really important, and it'll get you to start to focus on possibility. First is, in the future, how would you like to see yourself? Not how you see yourself right now. How would you like to see yourself in the future? Think about that. Think about how you like to see yourself in the future. Write it down. Second, in 1 year, what would you like to do? What would you like to accomplish in 1 year? Think about that. Write that down. Not what you think you can accomplish, what you want to accomplish. And also for the first question, how you would like to see yourself. Third, in 8 weeks, what would you like to see yourself as? What would you like to do? What would you like to accomplish in the next 8 weeks? And last question, if you weren't concerned about your current predicament, whether it's time or resources, what would you like to do? Remember, this exercise is what you would like to do, not what your mind is telling you can do, or what your mind is limiting you from thinking you can do. It's what you can do for all 4 of them. If you didn't get that, rewatch the video again, rewind it a little back, get those questions and write it down. Write it down, because in the next video, we're going to talk a lot more about this anxiety and how you can rewire your brain to help you with anxiety. Because on the first video, we talked about amygdala and cortex-based anxiety and how they're different and the connection they have. And on this video, we talked about neuroplasticity, which is the idea that you can literally change the connections in your brain by remodeling your brain through different actions that we're going to talk about in the future. But it's the belief, I can't overemphasize the belief enough, that the belief that you can change would make those skills useful to you. And we're going to discuss in the next Strictly Personal series. So, as always, thank you for watching. Be great and follow for more to stay inspired.